Welcome everybody to the Wake Up Call channel. There's a few things I need to cover in regards to the big setup that's occurring on November 5th, 2024. Most people may know it as the election, but anybody out there who is awake and aware of what's happening, it is not an election, it is a selection. And the selection is going to cause a mass hysteria in the United States of America when they decide to reveal the fake outcome of the election and, of course, cause order out of chaos from it. Now, the first thing I need to cover is this voter registration eligibility bill that was brought about in front of Congress, which really is a good reference for anybody out there who's trying to figure out if this is real or this isn't real, what's happening in Congress. This would never, ever occur in the history of the United States of America. Nothing like this we've ever seen before. And I'm not talking about just from a polarization standpoint of the two political figures that have been put at the head of the sabotaging of the United States of America, Donald Trump and Joe Biden. I'm talking about all these goons in Congress who are all members of secret societies, all people who were not elected in the first place, who sit in the Senate and sit in the House. They brought up a bill called the SAVE Act that would require proof of U.S. citizenship to vote. This isn't even something that should be in front of Congress. This is the ultimate, You would assume that you would have to be a U.S. citizen to vote by default of common sense, right? The fact that they brought this bill up, that this is even a thing, saying who's allowed to vote and who is not allowed to vote in a U.S. election shows you that not only are they gaslighting people, they're sabotaging the United States of America by design, by even pretending in Congress that this is an issue. This would never, ever be an issue because you're not allowed to vote if you're not a U.S. citizen. How would you vote in a U.S. election if you're not a U.S. citizen? And of course, the whole narrative they have out there is that Democrats can only win if, of course, illegal aliens vote for them, because nobody would really believe that anybody would vote for this communist insanity that they're pushing on the United States of America. So they've created this PSYOP that is the SAVE Act, and they have this vote on national television for everybody to see where all of the Democrats but 5 voted against a bill that would require proof for a U.S. citizen vote. So all of these people by default should be arrested for treason, right? These are people that were supposedly voting in that are allowing people from other countries to vote in our land. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. So why are they doing it? Well, because this makes it believable when Joe Biden ends up staying in office in November. And that's what I believe we're headed towards. It won't matter who they actually pick because it'll work either way. But the script is clearly starting to reveal itself as nobody on earth believing that Joe Biden can win the election, then having Joe Biden somehow win the election. And then, of course, everybody will say the system is broken. And what they've been trying to do, if you haven't noticed, is convince you that the system is broken. That's what they're doing with the Supreme Court. That's what they're doing with all of these laws that are getting overturned. They're trying to convince you that the great American experiment is over and that we need a new infrastructure and everything needs to be reset. Thus, the theory and the term you constantly hear about a great reset. So just this voter thing is already setting a precedent. The fact that it was passed is one thing, right? People are going to go, well, now the illegals can't vote. Okay, well, we all know the Senate's going to reject this. And then this whole notion that illegals can vote will still be in place. And they're doing this by design so that they can sabotage the structure. They're making you think that illegals are voting in these elections, that every single illegal that comes into America is a Democrat. And then when they put Biden back in power, this is going to cause utter chaos. They're preparing you for it with things like this. The other thing they're preparing you for are these stories out there about how celebrities are now calling for Joe Biden to step down. All it took was one really bad speech. Has anybody been paying attention over the last 4 years of this guy playing the role of the president that we've seen throughout movies like Hot Shots and Scary Movie where the president can't complete a sentence? Nobody's been paying attention. All of a sudden, right now, after the first debate, everybody's going, he needs to step aside, right? This is all being done by design. Again, it's psychological. You're seeing celebrities like Jimmy Fallon now suddenly mocking Joe Biden on national TV where they would never mock him in the past, right? This is all being done because they're going to convince you that this whole thing is really your fault. Joe Biden's going to refuse to step down. The celebrities are now washing their hands clean of this in the public eye, right? The celebrities like Stephen King and George Clooney are coming out and they're going, well, we're all for the party. We're not telling you we're communists, but we're all for the party. But Joe needs to step aside. So what ends up happening? Joe doesn't step aside. Then, much to the belief of everyone in the United States of America, somehow the Democrats win. The civilians will be too busy laughing at the conservatives to actually care about the destruction of the country, and then everything will be set into motion. If you haven't been paying attention, even this week, Joe Biden speaking called the president of Ukraine, Vladimir Putin, and he called his vice president, Donald Trump. They are really amping up how much of a fool they're trying to make him look like, so that when they decide to put him back into office, that two things will happen. One, nobody will believe. They'll think the election's rigged. They won't believe that he was actually voted in. And number two, we'll be able to blame one another, right? You voted for him. And then they'll say, well, look at who the two candidates were. It proves that the system's broke. It was one extreme on both sides. You're either voting for the end of democracy or you're voting for Joe. We voted for Joe because Joe was the safer bet. We didn't have another choice. Thus, the beginning of a new system being put in place. But look at this deliberate sabotaging. Look at him just completely, the stuff that's going on a worldwide stage is laughable. Look at these deliberate misspeaks.
I've said before, Russia will not prevail in this war. Ukraine will prevail in this war, and we'll stand with them every single step of the way. That's what the compact says, loudly and clearly. And now I want to hand it over to the president of Ukraine, who has as much courage as he has determination. Ladies and gentlemen, President Putin. President Putin. We're going to beat President Putin. President Zelensky. I'm so focused on beating Putin, we got to worry about it. Anyway, Mr. President.
I'm better.
You are a hell of a lot better.
Thank you so much. Mr. President. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, your political future has hung over the NATO summit a little bit this week. Speaker Pelosi made a point of suggesting that your decision on whether to stay in the race was still open. George Clooney and a handful of lawmakers have called on you to step aside. Reuters is reporting tonight that UAW leadership is concerned about your ability to win.
UAW just endorsed me, but go ahead.
Thank you. My question for you is, how are you incorporating these developments into your decision to stay? And separately, what concerns do you have about Vice President Harris's ability to beat Donald Trump if she were at the top of the ticket?
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she was not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
And again, the other thing I mentioned was how suddenly all these stories are out there. And again, you have to watch the news and see what they're trying to tell you, right? They're trying to condition you and manufacture you with the news. So all the stories that have come out in the last couple of weeks is about all these celebrities, from George Clooney to all the talking heads on TV, who every single night gaslight their audience and kiss Joe Biden's rear end, say he's one of the best presidents, even though anybody with common sense could see that Trump to Biden has been nothing more than sabotage. They've been ripping the Constitution apart deliberately. All the free speech that went away and all the censorship came when Donald Trump was put in power right after that event at that pizza parlor in Washington, D.C. And everybody out there who's been paying attention knows it. But the celebrities are now trying to wash their hands clean of this. This is also being done deliberately. Why? Because the celebrities hold power over the people out there. Their influence holds power. So the celebrities are going to be able to say, well, we voted Democrat, but we asked Joe to step aside. We said that he wasn't suitable or fit to run for office, but we weren't going to vote for the other guy. They're going to wash their hands clean of it. And again, who's going to be blamed for it? You're going to be blamed for it. Listen to some of the clips that have been airing across national television, including where they're openly talking about how Biden told Democratic governors that he's fine, it's just his brain. They're really just flaunting this, and the audience out there is laughing about what, they're laughing about what they're telling them about how Joe Biden's unfit for office, and they're laughing about it. Like, not worrying about what the future of their lives can look like. And this is going to be the rug pulled out from underneath them. The old cliche of having the carpet pulled out from underneath them, that's what this is. Listen to Whoopi Goldberg. Listen to all these talking heads, Jon Stewart, the bagel biter, Stephen Colbert, talking about how great Joe Biden is. He's a great guy. He cares so much about America. We'd rather have someone who cares about America than some other guy who's an extremist. This is all sabotage and them washing their hands clean of it.
Stating he was fine, but then adding, "It's just my brain."
He's trying to do it for America. I want the guy who cares about America.
I am in no way saying Biden's got to drop out, but can't we stress test this candidacy?
I believe he's a good enough man. He is a good enough president to put the needs of the country ahead of the needs of his ego. And however painful that might be, it is possible handing leadership to a younger generation is the right thing for the greater good.
Do you understand the opportunity here? Do you have any idea how thirsty Americans are for any hint of inspiration or leadership?
This morning, Congresswoman Nancy Pelosi stopping short of giving the president a full endorsement.
Does he have your support to be the head of the Democratic ticket?
As long as the president it's up to the president to decide if he is going to run. We're all encouraging him to make that decision because time is running short.
Actor George Clooney, who hosted a major fundraiser for Biden last month, writing an op-ed piece for the New York Times saying Biden should step down. The one battle he cannot win is the fight against time. None of us can. He wasn't even the Joe Biden of 2020. He was the same man we all witnessed at the debate.
And as you heard, do you have any idea how thirsty Americans are for leadership and for change? It's almost like these people are conditioning everybody for the arrival of the Antichrist, right? Because remember, all of this noise, all of this chaos, all of this stress you're feeling from politics is being done deliberately by these same people like Jon Stewart, like Stephen Colbert, like every single news anchor on television. They're causing all of the problems through psychosis. Then they set you up with, we're dying for leadership. It's almost like they're announcing soon the arrival of the Antichrist, because the Antichrist is going to come in the name of what? Peace and war. And everything's going to get better, and everyone's going to love him on both sides of the aisle. Someone has to be completely neutral. But this is what we see going on. I mean, if you don't see the big setup coming, you're not paying attention. All of these guys like Stephen Colbert and Rob Reiner, all these celebrities, George Clooney, every one of them who nobody's suspicious of why they hang out at the White House, why all of these celebrities are Democrats, except for some of the cheesy ones like Dennis Quaid, who are conservative. Right? All the big popular ones are this is being done because they know their influence over the masses to get them on board with communism without them realizing that woke is communism, that they're about to enslave themselves without realizing what they're even doing. The majority of people out there. And you're going to be blamed for all of this. So they're setting you up. They're showing you the voter registration eligibility, right? You couldn't put something in front of Congress that was more treasonous. The fact that there's a vote, the fact that someone's like, well, I'd like to bring attention to the SAFE Act. Then what's to say? Well, the act is that you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. Wouldn't every single person go, what are you talking about? Of course you have to be a U.S. citizen to vote. We can't go to other countries and vote. I can't go to Brazil and vote. Can you go to Canada and vote if you're not a Canadian? Of course not. It's common sense. And the fact that they're showing you that common sense doesn't exist is deliberately being done. They're setting you up. They're showing you that, hey, and why is it that this was brought about in Congress? Not just the fact that they're bringing attention to it as if it's a thing, and then we need a bill for people to be able to require proof of U.S. citizenship. But number two, why are Democrats voting against it? Why are Democrats okay with people who are not U.S. citizens voting? This is gaslighting. That's all that this is. Because when the outcome of this election comes, no one's going to believe it. No one's going to believe it. And again, I lean towards them putting Biden back in because it makes the least amount of sense. And if it makes the least amount of sense, it's going to cause the most chaos. That's why, right? They keep telling, it's easy to say, well, Trump's definitely going to win because that's what they keep telling you. They keep telling us that Trump is going to win. They keep saying that, Biden can't even complete a sentence. Oh, who would vote for him? Oh, he's senile. Oh, he's got Alzheimer's. Oh, deliberately. So it's going to be very shocking to most people when they put him back in. And then it's going to be believable when this country falls to its knees. And it's going to be very easy to divide this country and herd them where they want. Because if they do a fake wipeout of Biden and they put Kamala in, the majority of conservatives will go wherever Trump tells them to go. Because this has already gotten so chaotic and so out of control. You would think that the civilians would call on, Congress being completely removed and new people being put in where there's proof of actual elections and who gets voted in, and you don't have to be a millionaire to be voted in. These are all common sense things that should occur. But we're not at that point. And they've given you the two most extreme candidates they could possibly give you. Two guys that could totally nuke the infrastructure. Trump and Biden. And then they want you to go, well, you got to pick one, lesser of two evils. There is no lesser of two evils. It's endgame at the end of this. That's what's happening on November 5th. It's a big setup, and they're setting you up psychologically right now for when they tell you that Biden won. Most people are going to expect this country to be over. Because everybody out there, number one, is going to think it's rigged, which again, it's not rigged, it's fake. Okay, remember that. It's a big difference. Rigged means that they're ignoring, your votes. If you're voting conservative, they're ignoring it, right? They're only tallying this, and they're not counting any votes. It's predetermined, it's pre-selected, and then the psychosis is this, and they make you think that you're voting so that you're under the illusion of freedom and that you're the one making the decisions. Thus, there's no revolution that occurs. They could just blame it on a vote and say, well, it's your next door neighbor who voted for a senile old man. Oh, it's your next door neighbor who voted for a guy that's going to bring us into World War III. Instead of going, we don't even want these candidates in the first place. Nobody wants these candidates. Why is this whole thing set up the way it is? And why aren't we even getting accurate tallies on votes? Well, the whole thing's a setup, right? And don't forget the notion here with the requiring proof of U.S. citizenship in conservative states. This is going to lead to the digital ID. That's what they're underlying here. Conservatives are going to want this technology. You're not going to hear the alt-right media talk about the dangers of a digital ID, communism, and of course the mark of the beast. They will not talk about that. They will just gaslight their audience about how we need a digital ID so that illegal aliens can't vote or live in their cities. So it's being set up on both sides. This whole thing is rolling out exactly how you would expect it. Again, for anybody out there, look, I'm not on the inside. I don't know what's going on. I'm giving you my opinion. My opinion says that they'll keep Biden in. He won't drop out. He will not be replaced because it makes the least amount of sense. And if it makes the least amount of sense, it's going to cause the most chaos. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. Share this video, and God bless all of you and your families as always.